Hi there guys and welcome to your match preview as Manchester United take on Wolves at the Molineux Stadium on Monday the 19th of August with an 8 p.m. kickoff. It's United's second game of the season, our first away from home, and it is the last game to be played over the fixture weekend. Can United make it 2 wins out of 2? I'm the Peaky Pundit and I'm here to give you your ultimate fully rounded match preview. Before I jump into it, a big shout out to the partners of the channel, Duck and Cover. Check out their link in the description of this video and go and take a look at all their fantastic branded clothing on the website. So look, going into today's video, the form guide is what I want to discuss first. Yes, we're only 1 game into the season, but that's all we can go off. I don't want to go into pre-season and bring that into it. Leicester entertain Wolves on the opening game of the season. Wolves only had a 30% possession throughout the game with only 8 shots, 2 on target, and made 291 successful passes. Yes, they were away from home, but playing against Leicester. United entertained Chelsea, as we know, with a what looks on paper a very, very good result, 4-0 against Chelsea. United had 46% of the possession, having 18 shots, 7 of those on target, making 523 passes throughout the game. Look, will Wolves be looking to get their first win of the season in front of their home crowd? And we know the Molineux is a very, very tricky place to go to. And going straight onto that next topic, looking at the previous meetings between the two clubs. Last season, United played Wolves in the FA Cup on the 16th of March and were defeated 2-1. And only a couple of weeks later, in the Premier League, United lost again 2-1 to Wolves. And the other fixture played last season, earlier on in September, was a 1-1 draw. So look, are Wolves that potential bogey team for United? We know they performed very, very well against all of the sort of top 6 clubs last season. One thing's for sure, we know they always turn up against United at the Molineux. So it is going to be a tricky fixture. It is one of the ones we highlighted as soon as the fixtures were released. First the Chelsea game, then this game, and you know, you're kind of looking at both games thinking, look, if United come out of both games with not maximum points on the board, is it going to dent the confidence of the squad? Look, 1 win out of win, convincing win, 4-0 at home against Chelsea. Gives us great momentum going into this game, and momentum I think we need. As I just mentioned, Wolves is a very, very tricky place to go to. Now, the predicted starting 11, in my opinion, I'm only going to swap one player, and I think Ollie's going to keep it the same as what he had it against Chelsea. I predicted that starting 11, but the only player surprisingly started was Andreas Pereira. So I'm going to go with Ollie sticking with the same team that started against Chelsea. David De Gea in goal, Luke Shaw at left back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka right back. Centre-back pairing, who looked outstanding, by the way, Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof at the heart of the defence. Pogba and McTominay sitting just in front of them, with Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford out on the left, Andreas Pereira out on the right, with Martial through the middle. So that's what I think the starting 11 is. It'll be great to get your comments, guys, in the comment section if you think Ollie's going to stick with the starting 11 that won against Chelsea, or if he might change it. I think what he likes about this is keeping Daniel James, keeping Greenwood on the bench, because that pace towards the end of the game is enough to kind of, go and win a game, if you like. When players are starting to tire, having that raw pace of both of them two coming off the bench is something I think Ollie's going to like having at his disposal as the season goes on. And when we go to a place like Wolves, who I imagine are going to set up with a back 5, we might find it tricky to break them down, but introducing players with that kind of trickery and pace in the last 20 minutes, half an hour of a game, is what I think can go and win them kind of games where we are going to come against teams that are going to look to just shut up shop. Looking at our back 4, it looked a bit all over the place against Wolves last season. How refreshing is it to see what looks like a proper back 4 at Manchester United? Back 5, including David De Gea, whose confidence I think will be going through the roof as well, knowing he's got some solidarity in front of him. Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof at the heart of the defence, as I mentioned. I think they'll be commanding it from the back. Wan-Bissaka, I expect more of the same from him against what we saw against Chelsea. Luke Shaw come under a little bit of criticism over recent weeks, but I think, as weeks go on, I think he's going to be keeping an eye on his own performance and ensuring he picks it up and isn't left behind or identified as the weak link at the back. I think, he's going to be keen to, get that form back to where it was when he first came to United before, obviously, he suffered that horrific injury. And I'm sure he will get there as well. Like, going into the front two, who I think are going to sit in front of the defence again, Pogba and McTominay. I think McTominay would do his usual role of getting about the play, getting in players' faces, breaking up play and doing things simple, because I think that's what he's good and effective at. Paul Pogba, I'm going to go into him a little bit more in detail at the end of this preview, but I think I expect a little bit more from him. I would like to see him be a bit quicker on the ball. We get caught on possession a few times against Chelsea, but like I said, I'm going to go onto him a little bit more later on in this video. Look, going into the key players for United, two players I identified from the Chelsea game was Harry Maguire and Tony Martial. Now, starting on Harry Maguire, his first ever game for United. I think he might have done minimal training with the first team, as it was all kind of done on the last day's deal. And, I'm sure he would have been doing a lot of media stuff and marketing stuff with the club. But look, he came in and he looked like he'd been a centre-back at United for years. It wasn't just what he was doing on the ball. It was what he was doing off the ball, really commanding it, being very, very vocal at the back there and letting players know, if he wasn't happy with them. And I think that's what United fans wanted to see. Obviously, first and foremost was his performance of being able to tackle, win his headers and pass the ball. But seeing that leadership quality, that's something we've lacked at United for a long time. Chris Smalling and Jones, for me, sometimes they would kind of go into a shell if things weren't going their way, or you never knew what to expect with them. I think with Harry Maguire, I think we know what we expect, and I think he brings the best out of the other defenders around him. So it's going to be good to see him coming up and against a tough fixture, in my opinion, away to Wolves, and seeing how he stands up. Tony Martial, who started through the middle, took a lot of flack on the back end of last season after he signed that contract extension. A lot of fans said he wasn't really up for it. Ollie, when they went back into pre-season, said he's come back a different player, a different man, it seemed. It's almost as though he's come back refreshed. His head's in the right place. And he's really brought into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's high pressing game, which I thought he might have struggled with, in my opinion, in the first instance, because he's not a luxury player, but sometimes he doesn't apply himself well, if things aren't really going his way. But one thing I did see from the weekend, look, he's really brought into this high press. He's putting himself about the pitch, and obviously getting on the score sheet would have done him the world of good as well. So I expect him to start through the middle. Don't get me wrong, I think him and Rashford will kind of interchange throughout the game, but I think he will be predominantly playing on the centre-back shoulder, if you like, and playing as the highest point of United's attack for the majority of the games as well. Now, look, an interesting stat about Tony Martial. He has scored 49 goals for Manchester United in all competitions, more than any other player at the club in that time. He could become the 53rd player to reach half a century for the club. So let's not forget, look, he does score goals for United, and I have tipped him this season, and I mentioned it on our podcast that we came out this week, that I do believe he will reach over 15 goals this season in the Premier League, and I think this is the season we're going to see him really take off as a player of United and be the main man, which I think he is enjoying as well. Look, since his debut in 2015, he's had a bit of inconsistencies in his performances, but as I just mentioned, I think this season is his season as well. Now, turning our attentions a little bit to the Wolves players and key players who I believe are going to make a difference for them is the two in the middle of the park, is Moutinho and Neves. Both of them like to have the ball at their feet. In the reverse fixtures, the fixtures last season, these two for me controlled the game from the middle of the park. They kind of overran us in the middle. They dictated play from deep, and United players struggled to get to grips with them, especially Ruben Neves, who likes to drop very, very deep as a bit of a quarterback role, if you like, get on the ball and make things happen. And United really struggle with that. It'll be interesting to see if the high press kind of blocks that out for Wolves on the weekend and puts them under a bit of a pressure, which I don't think we did too well in the fixture at the Molineux in the FA Cup and the league last season as well. But look, the other thing what does concern me is that I do think them two have the potential to outwork United's middle two in Scotty McTominay and Pogba. So this is why I really feel that Pogba has to step his game up more than ever against Wolves, because if we do have a kind of defeat at the Molineux on the weekend, it's kind of then that inconsistency straight of win one game, lose one game. We need to get 3 points again. And Ollie would have been making that very, very clear to his team as well. Now, look, Wolves are going to be aiming high this season to improve on their 7th place finish. I would have preferred to have played them once the Europa League fixtures kicked in, so that maybe they had a bit of squad rotation and a bit of fatigue as well. But they're going to be fresh second game in. So for them, it's the ideal time for them to be playing a top six club to get a result and get their confidence kind of boosting as well. I do think Ollie will go and continue that pressing tactics, and I think it will only get better as players get accustomed to it. Last season, we saw him go and press some games, but then drop off in some of the bigger games, and be prepared to concede possession. Whereas I think this season, I think 9 times out of 10, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be prepared to take that risk and have his squad go and press the ball as high up the pitch with that high intensity that we've seen throughout the whole of pre-season. So why should it change this weekend as well? Turning on to Paul Pogba, like I said, he had 2 assists against Chelsea in what was a relatively poor game for him, in my opinion. What can he do against Wolves? As I kind of mentioned a little earlier on in this video, I believe he has to really step it up. I want to see that work rate applied a little bit more for Paul Pogba. He looked like he wanted an extra touch on the ball against Chelsea, often got caught in possession. He did some very good things, but then he would go and let himself down by going getting caught on the ball, or trying to do too much, in my opinion. Go to ground and kind of look at the referee and throw his arms around a little bit. I don't want to see that creeping into this United team, and I don't think Ollie does either. I think Ollie's looking to put together 11 workhorses in this squad. I think he's a firm believer in high and high intensity and hard work and graft during a game. So I think he really needs to draw that home. To Paul Pogba as well. Now, look, another kind of segment we're introducing into the match previews this season is called Facts for Thoughts. A couple of facts here. United versus Wolves. Man United have won more Premier League games on a Monday than any other side. In fact, they've won 68% of their Monday games in the competition, 43 out of 63. The highest win rate for any team on a specific day of the week, who have played a minimum of 10 games on that specific day. Also, an interesting fact, Wolves' Raul Jimenez was involved in 7 Premier League goals against the Big Six sides last season. He scored 4 goals and 3 assists. Only Sergio Aguero with 9 and Raheem Sterling with 8 were involved with more. So look, he's going to be a danger man for them. But hopefully, with the introduction of Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the backline for United, there's enough there to keep him at bay. Going into my prediction for this one, I am confident United are going to go and get 3 points yet again. The first away game of the season for the Reds. I'm going for a 2-1 win for United. And I'm going to back Tony Martial and Rashford to both get on the score sheet again this weekend. Guys, that has been your rounded match preview. Don't forget, go and check out the partners of the channel here, Duck and Cover. Their link is in the description of this video. A big shout out to them as always as well. Enjoy the game. Come on the Reds, another 3 points to make it 2 wins from 2, 6 points on the board. That has been your match preview with the Peaky Pundit.